In the depths of night, where shadows dance and whispers carry secrets, we return to the realm of dark whispers. Previously, we journeyed with a young sailor through treacherous seas, only to discover that the greatest dangers often lurk within our own hearts. But tonight, dear listeners, a new tale unfolds, one of ancient curses, forgotten cities, and the price of freedom. Enter the world of dark whispers, where Scheherazade's tales come alive, one night at a time. The air in the king's chamber grew thick with anticipation as Scheherazade leaned forward, her eyes gleaming like distant stars. Her voice, soft yet commanding, drew all who listened into a world where reality and fantasy blurred. "My king," she began, "tonight I shall tell you of a city swallowed, not by sand, nor by say, but by silence itself. Long ago, beyond the endless dunes of the great desert, there stood a city called Sahara, known as the Jewel of Dawn. Its towers pierced the sky, shimmering with marble and onyx. In its gardens, roses bloomed eternally, their petals never withering. Fountains sang with water so pure it was said to heal the weariest of hearts, us. But Sahara harbored a terrible secret. Every century, when the moon turned crimson in the night sky, a veil of mist would descend upon the city. For a single night, its people would vanish as if plucked from existence by unseen hands. At dawn, they would return, their eyes shadowed with memories too heavy for words, their lips sealed against the horrors they had witnessed. One fateful night, however, the veil descended, and never lifted again. Travelers passing through the desert found only empty streets, doors swinging open in the wind, meals left untouched upon tables. It was as if the entire city had been abandoned in the span of a single heartbeat. And so, Sahara became known as the Forgotten City, a place of mystery and dread. Years passed, and the world moved on. But fate, ever capricious, had not finished with Sahara. A wanderer named Khalid crossed the desert, his heart as barren as the sands beneath his feet. Grief was his only companion, for he had lost his wife and child to a sickness that not even the most fervent prayers could cure. The world to him was nothing but dust and silence, and so he walked endlessly, seeking nothing, fearing nothing. One night, beneath a sky heavy with stars, Khalid saw something shimmering on the horizon, like a mirage, yet sharper, more real. Drawn by a force he could not name, he followed the ghostly glow until he stood before the gates of Sahara. The city stood as if untouched by time, its gates open in silent invitation. Khalid stepped inside, his footsteps echoing in streets that should have bustled with life. The air felt thick, as though the city itself was holding its breath. Statues lined the avenues, their eyes to lifelike, their expressions frozen in eternal sorrow. At times, he could have sworn they watched him pass. Thirst drove him deeper into the city, to the palace gardens, where roses bloomed in perfect silence, their petals dripping with dew that glittered like tears. At the center stood a fountain carved in the likeness of a woman, her face hidden behind a stone veil. As Khalid approached, he heard it a whisper. At first, he thought it was the wind playing tricks, but then it grew clearer, a warning carried on the still air. "Do not linger, ... The veil watches." He spun around, searching for the source, but found only the statue's stone lips, frozen in an eternal lament. Chilled to his very soul, Khalid fled the garden. At curiosity, like a flame, burned in his chest. Where had the people gone? Why had this magnificent city been abandoned? As night fell, the moon turned pale silver above the towers. Mist slithered into the streets, curling around Khalid's ankles like spectral serpents. Then came the sound, the faint echo of footsteps. Khalid hid in a shadowed archway, his heart pounding. Out of the fog emerged figures cloaked in shadow, their forms neither entirely human nor entirely ghost. They moved slowly, heads bowed as if in eternal mourning, their voices murmuring in a tongue older than memory itself. Among them, he saw faces frozen in sorrow, identical to the statues that lined the streets. And then he understood. The statues were no stone at all. They were the people of Zahara, trapped between flesh and shadow, bound by the curse of the veil. Terrified, Khalid tried to flee, but the mist thickened, driving him deeper into the palace. At his heart, in a chamber lit by a single flickering lantern, stood a woman clothed in white. A veil covered her face, but her presence radiated sorrow and majesty in equal measure. "Why have you come, wanderer?" she asked, her voice echoing as if carried from another realm. Khalid fell to his knees, overwhelmed by the weight of her gaze. "I seek no treasure, no throne," he whispered, "only the truth." "Why does this city suffer such silence?" The woman lowered her veil. Her face was both beautiful and tragic, her eyes endless pools of grief. "I am Yasira, last queen of Zahara," she said. "Long ago, I defied the gods. When they demanded sacrifice to preserve our city's splendor, I refused. I would not let my people suffer for the vanity of the heavens. But the gods, they are cruel in their vengeance." Her hands trembled as she continued. "They bound us to the veil, neither living nor dead, neither free nor forgotten. And every stranger who enters, ... double quotes." She paused, her voice faltering. ... is claimed by it." Khalid felt the mist tightening around him, cold as chains. His heart pounded, but he stood tall. "Then let it claim me," he whispered, "for I have nothing left to lose." But Yasira shook her head. "No, wanderer. You carry grief, yes, ... but also hope, and that hope is poison to the veil." She leaned closer, her words a tremor in the silence. "You can break this curse, but it will demand a sacrifice greater than any the gods once asked." "What sacrifice?" Khalid asked, dread and anticipation warring in his chest. "The memory of what you loved most, your wife, your child. To save us, you must forget them. Forever." Khalid's chest ached. His wife's laughter, his child's smile, these were the only things keeping him tethered to life. And yet, here stood a city of thousands, imprisoned in endless sorrow, begging for release. The mist crept higher, swallowing the walls. Shadows reached for him, their hands like cold fire. He closed his eyes, tears streamed down his face, and then he whispered, "Take them from me." The air shuddered. Cry like thunder split the night as the mist recoiled. Statues cracked, crumbling into dust as figures emerged, men, children collapsing to the ground, free at last. Yasira raised her hands to the heavens, her veil dissolving into light. The veil shattered. Zahara awoke, but Khalid staggered. His eyes searched, confused. He no longer remembered why tears wet his face. The faces of his wife and child had vanished from his mind like dreams at dawn. All that remained was emptiness. The people of Zahara surrounded him, whispering prayers of gratitude. Yasira placed a hand upon his shoulder. "You have given us freedom, wanderer, but you have bound yourself to the truest silence of all the silence of forgotten love." She kissed his forehead, and her form dissolved into starlight, leaving behind only the echo of her voice. "Not all who are remembered are free, and not all who are forgotten are lost." Khalid walked from the city as dawn broke, the sun rising over towers once cursed, now gleaming with life. And yet, in his heart, there was only the quiet ache of something missing, something precious, gone forever. "Asa, my king," Scheherazade whispered, her eyes shimmering in the lamplight. The city of Zahara was freed. Aha! But the wanderer lost the very memories that had carried him through the darkness, a gift for thousands. ... Yet a wound for one. She paused, her words hanging like smoke in the air. But what became of Khalid? Did he wander endlessly, hollow and forgotten? Or did fate, in its cruelty, return him once more to the path of the gods? Her voice softened to a whisper. Do not miss the continuation of this tale. Only on Dark Whispers.